and invite Dr. Pogthang Haukif to kindly chair the session. Over to you, sir.
Okay, once again, thank you for the time given to me to chair this session. So for the first session, we have, as it is stated, we have 4 papers, but the last has been dropped out. So this means that we have sufficient time. There is no hurry. So as per our schedule, each presenter is given 30 minutes. Now, even if you extend by another 10 minutes, I will still adjust the time. So we have 3 papers for the first session. The first one is by Tibeto-Burman, and her paper is a preliminary study of Tibeto-Burman phonology. And then we have the next paper by Tibeto-Burman, Meitei, and Mangai Chong Tothang, Diphthongs, a typological study of Meitei, Lon, and Thadar. Then the third paper is by Nupur Sinha, entitled The Phonology of Koro. The last paper, though it is dropout, is by Adam Dorai and Paulson Kim Sontak, a preliminary study of Morsong phonology. This is dropout for today's presentation. Now, without further delay and ado, I request Hiram Jyoti Boro to present your paper. So take your time. So by around, say, 10, I will, in case you don't wind up by 10:10, I will interrupt there. Until such time, you are free to take your own time. Okay, go ahead.
Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hirok Boro. I am a PhD research scholar in the Department of Linguistics, Guwahati University. My presentation is on phonology of Tibeto-Burman, and here is the outline of my presentation. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about the language background, fieldwork in data, consonants, vowels, and syllable structure. To begin with, let me give you a brief information of the language. So, Tibeto-Burman is spoken in Rupa and Shergaon in the West Kameng district of Arunachal Pradesh. And my research work is based on the varieties spoken mainly in the Rupa town. It is mainly spoken by the Thong families of Rupa town, and Thong families consider themselves as the upper class of that region. So to break it down, Sher refers to Shergaon, and Tukpen refers to Rupa, which is the traditional name of Rupa. Tukpen is the traditional name of Rupa. And according to Ethnologue 2019, status of the language is 6A vigorous, and it is an unwritten language, and it has a number of speakers of around 5,000, and the entire population follows Buddhism. So here are some informations about my field work and data. So my field area is Rupa, West Kameng district, Arunachal Pradesh, and my field trip was on 15th of December 2021, and I had around 4 informants who helped me record, and their age group were from 25 to 75. I used the Nilda word list I've collected the Nilda word list, which is specially designed for the Northeast Indian languages. And the mode of my data collection was audio recording, and I used the audio recorder Zoom H1N. So to begin, I have found 23 consonants, and the consonant series are 13 stops, 3 nasals, 3 fricative, 3 approximants, and a trill. So this is the consonant inventory of Sherdukpan. So these are the initial consonants. As you can see, there are 21 consonants that occur only in the initial position. Most of the consonants appear in the initial position, but the velar nasal and glottal stop doesn't. So these are the final consonants. In the final consonants, the aspirated plosives, palatal plosives, approximants, and fricatives are not possible, except that in fricative, only H can appear. So here are my consonant minimal pairs for the plosives. There is no contrast between the pa and aspirated pa in the final position, because aspirated pa does not appear in the final position. Likewise, there is no contrast between ta and aspirated ta in the final position. The requirement of a glottal stop is very less, for which I did not find any minimal pair for the glottal stop, except that it occurs in the word somehow sounded like sound symbolic. So I was not sure that I should state it here, but still I have done it in the final position, as you can see. Talk, and for dry, they use OO. So these are the nasal consonants minimal pair. Almost all the nasal consonants appear at all the 3 positions, except the velar nasal nga, which does not appear at the initial position. So these are the fricative and voice palatal plosive minimal pairs. The voiced palatal plosive can only occur at the initial position. And I did not find any minimal pair for the fricatives in the final position. So these are the minimal pairs for the approximants. Except the alveolar approximant la, the other approximants does not appear at the medial and final position. So To move on, these are my findings about the vowels. There are 22 vowels in Shedukpan, 12 primary vowels, 5 secondary vowels, and 5 nasal. So this is the vowel inventory for the primary vowels. There are 12 primary vowels, 6 front vowels, 5 back vowels, and 1 central vowel. So these are the secondary vowels. Four front vowels and 1 back unrounded vowel. These are the nasal vowels, 2 front nasal vowels and 3 back vowels. So this is the primary, these are the primary vowel minimal pairs. Front versus back, E and U, Abi for grandmother and Abu for brother. Front versus central vowel, A and Aming for body hair and for aunt, Ating for aunt. And central versus close mid, versus O. Abomi for parents and Abomu for forefather. So this is the primary vowel height distinction minimal pair. Close versus close mid, front and back. E versus A, U versus O. Close mid versus open, E versus A. Close mid versus open mid is O versus O. So these are the contrasts between the primary vowels and their long counterparts. E versus E, that is Ziba for request and Chiba for sweet. A versus A versus A. A versus A. U versus U. For Su for meat and Zoo for foolish. O versus O. So for land and Ko for water. So this is the secondary vowel minimal pair. Front versus back. Secondary with primary. E versus E, E versus E, and A versus A, and A versus A, and O versus U. So these are the nasal vowel minimal pair. oral versus nasal vowels. E versus E, A versus A, U versus U, O versus O, and O versus O. So this is the syllable structure of Shedukpen. Shedukpen has 4 syllable structure: CV, VC, CCV, and CVC. P for insects. For CV, it's P, insects. VC, ig for hen. CCV, pli for needle. CVC, pong for shell. In CCV syllable structure, the second consonant can only be a trill or approximants. For example, pli, plu, puat, topa, trong, nya. So here are my conclusions. Shedukpen is an unwritten and endangered language. It has 45 sounds, and even though according to ethnologue, it says it's a 6A vigorous, which translates to sustainable, I still found that the status of the language is a little bit degrading, because I could find the difference between the amount of vocabularies that the younger and the elder speakers had. And the younger speakers started using the Hindi or English terms for most of the items. And there are 22 vowels, 12 primary, 5 secondary, and 5 nasal. There are 23 consonants. Unga and glottal stop do not appear in the word initial positions. And the syllable structure is CV, VC, CCV, and CVC. So I think I have this much to say, because it was a preliminary study, as I could only collect the NILDA word list, and the whole paper, the whole presentation was based on that word list, which had around 1100 words. And because I didn't have enough data like the narratives or elicited sentences, so that's why I thought that I would call it a preliminary study. And about the secondary vowels, they are quite rare, and I had only 2 or 1 instances for each. And in the coming in my coming field trip, I would like to try to collect more of those secondary vowels. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you to the first presenter, Hirak Jyoti, on a preliminary study of Shedukpen phonology. Now the floor is open for comments, question, etc., etc. So whoever wants to ask anything, you are free to do so. We have near about 10 to 15 minutes time for discussion. So can you hear me, Bijan?
Bijan is not there. So we
Okay.
can
Oh,
hear
yeah.
you.
Okay. So okay, the question was clear, right? I now open the floor for discussion, comments, etc. Okay.
Yeah, Pautang, if I can.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
So yeah, my question is on, I'm sure you must be familiar with Francois' work on share to pin. So how is this in relation to your work? How is it different, or yeah, from the existing literature that you have? Is it based on the same dialect or language?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's based on the same. And Foswa sir's work was, I think, sketch grammar. So I'm trying to do it a little bit in more detailed. So that's why I thought I would present the phonology again, like the full phonology after this, when I'll be having more data of the language.
Any more questions? Please feel free to ask. I am still waiting for questions. If there are any, please feel free to ask questions. Okay, it seems, yeah, go ahead.
There's a question in the chat box. That's what I mean to say.
Oh, there is a chat box, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, chat box. Okay, I did not. Okay. So the first question is, hi, Hiro. Can you share more about CCV? Can you share?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in the what I found in the CCV syllable structure is that the second consonant can be a trill like prong, and only approximants like pli, huat, dopa, nya, and all. So, am I clear? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you are clear. You're very much clear. So are there any more questions? So either you raise your hand or type it in the what you call chat box if you have any question. So if there are no questions, just keep on. Keep your this presentation. Go to your consonantal chart. I have few queries to ask.
Okay, sir.
Go to your consonantal chart. Consonantal chart at the beginning. Oh, consonantal chart. Yeah, there is one query. There are a few observations that I would like to make. I was just wondering if you look at your approximant. So is wa a velar approximant, or is wa the wa that you have given here, is it a velar approximant? Is it the case in the language, or is it a typo error, or is it a bilabial approximant? So in most languages that we work with, we have what you call rather a bilabial, this wa, the w, but you have a bilabial approximant. So in your chart, you are given this as a velar. So is it the case that this is a velar approximant?
Yes, sir.
This is a velar approximant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. And then in the chart, one thing that we can consistently note is that there is a paucity, or lack of what you call lack of bilabial fricative. The fa and wa, this is lacking. So it happens in many of the Tibeto-Burman languages.
Yes.
The bilabial fricative is absent in many of the languages, but some Kukichin languages, they have what you call bilabial fricative to large extent. So,
Yes.
okay, this is one thing. Then
Yes, sir.
regarding what you call in your minimal pair, go
Yes,
down
sir.
to your minimal pair. Minimal pair. Okay, there is something like za and cha. Za and cha. Go down next. I think za and cha. No, on top. Or still top. I think za and yeah. This is exactly. So this is za. This is what you call za as alveolar fricative, voice alveolar fricative, and this is what maybe the palatal what you call stop. But
Yes.
in the example you have given here, dima, it should be zima. Is it a typo error, or is it dimi, or it is? It should be a code.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Yes, sir. I think it's an error. Yes, sir.
Okay, those are a few observations. The vowel chart. Go down to your vowel chart. Okay, vowel chart is very interesting, but still. Many of the peers that you have provided are not minimal peers. They are
Yes.
not real minimal peers. So
Yes, sir.
I find it is slightly difficult to assume all the contrasts. Some contrasts works well, but other contrasts are not minimal peers. So
Yes, sir.
the underlying principle for establishing a phoneme is what we call contrast. If two sounds contrast in the same environment, then we construct or constitute them as separate phonemes.
Yes, sir.
So some of the pairs that you have taken, they don't constitute minimal pair. They don't, because the contrast is in different environments. So if you can
Yes, sir.
find same environment, then
Yes, sir.
your works become more what it accurate. Otherwise,
Yes, sir.
it leaves a lot of eyebrows when you look at your minimal pairs. So these are some of
Yes,
the
sir.
things that I would like to share from my side.
Thank you so much,
So,
sir.
okay, there's another query. Is Shadowpen a tonal language? Is it a tonal or non-tonal language?
Sir, I think right now what I found is it has no tones for now, but in François Jacquesson sir's work also, he has stated that the variety of Rupa town mainly, which is my fieldwork area, has lost its tones. And if I try to compare with some of the nearby dialects from like Shergao, which is only like, it is a adjacent town to Rupa, I think they have tones, sir. And I have to go in detail to know about it. And in my next field trip, I'm really trying to go to that place.
Okay, there are no chart. Go back to your what you call your syllable, your what you call VC syllable, VC. Okay. So I was intrigued. So we have here BC, and the C is a voice pillar. So this is interesting. So in
Yes, sir.
many of the data, we have only the voiceless, and here you have the voice. So this
Yes, sir.
also is a point to be noted. This is
Yes,
very
sir.
interesting. This is interesting to my mind. Okay. So
Thank
from
you so
my
much.
side, this is, can you elaborate on glottal stop? There's a question from Temsu
Yes.
about the glottal stop. Go back to your consonant inventory and elaborate more on the glottal stop. Yeah. Okay.
I haven't found exact words for glottal stop, but there are some words like dry. For dry, they use a word called o, and somehow I thought it to be sound symbolic. That's why I didn't have more instances having glottal stop.
Yeah, just in relation to that, how frequent is it?
It is not that frequent, sir.
How frequent is the glottal stop, if there is any relation having been a
Hello, I cannot hear properly, sir.
The question is how frequent. So is the glottal stop abundantly found in the language, or is it found only in some selected words?
I think it is not that frequent, sir. It isn't that frequent. I have only found one word in the whole Nilda word list, which is o for dry.
Okay, there is, okay, no. Is there any question? Otherwise, I have to wind up the discussion. Is there any question? Pending question? Okay, it seems there are no questions now. What we can is, so thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you,
So
sir.
now we now invite the next speaker, Sobina Yasmin. No, sorry, no, not sorry. Yeah. Thodam Roman Meite and Mangai Chong Tothang. So kindly share your presentation. You have what you call more than 40 minutes time, so take time. Okay. So now the floor is yours. Kindly share your your PowerPoint and then start your presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Moy Chong Tautang, and today I will be presenting on the topic diphthongs, a typological study of Meiteilon and Tado. To begin with, let me give a brief introduction. Typological analysis obligatorily involves data from different or multiple languages, either of different language families. The paper will analyze with diphthongs of both Meiteilon and Tado language. Both languages are included under Tibeto-Burman language family. Meiteilon is the major language spoken in Manipur, a northeastern state of India, and it is also the state language. Thado is also spoken mainly in Manipur and in some parts of Assam. According to classification made by some eminent scholars, according to Paul Benedict 1972, classified the Sino-Tibetan language family as two major groups, Tibeto-Karen and Chinese. As the Karen has SVO word order, Karen plays isolated from the whole Tibeto-Burman group. He classified Tibeto-Burman into 7 distinct divisions. He put Meitei Lon and Thado in Kuki-Naga subgroup under Kachin group as distinct linguistic entities. According to Robert Schaeffer, 1974, he used the taxonomic levels in his classification of Sino-Tibetan languages. The highest level was named division with the suffix ik. There are 6 major subdivisions in his classification. And next level is section, which have the suffix ish. He put both Meitei Lon and Thado in Kukish section, and Thado was included under the old Kuki group in his classification schema. And according to Robert Berling, 2003, he placed Meitei Lon as an independent group under Eastern area, whereas Thado was placed under Kuki group. In Scott Delance's classification, Meitei Lon is placed under the Kamrupan subdivision along with Mikir and Thado in Kuki-Chin section under the Kuki-Naga group. In the scope of the paper, it will focus in diphthongs of Meitei Lon and Thado and the direction of diphthongization, diphthong occurring environments in Meitei Lon, as well as Thado will be shown in the study. The crescendo and the structure of diphthongs will also be analyzed in this paper. Convenient way to study if a word has a diphthong with 2 vowel sounds or a monophthong with only 1 vowel sound is to listen to how it sounds when a person says it out loud. If the vowel sound changes within the same syllable, it's definitely a diphthong. As opposed to long vowels, diphthongs are vowels that change throughout their pronunciation. They start as one vowel and end as another. The process of moving from one vowel sound to another is called gliding, and thus another name for diphthong is the term gliding vowel. Therefore, a diphthong is also known as a compound vowel, a complex vowel, and a moving vowel. For example, in the word time, while R receives the primary stress, the E vowel glides to become a noticeable E. As the gliding incident happens, E gets weakened by losing its loudness with an audible decrease in its articulation. In short, these dual vowels are diphthongs which merge together during the articulation. Here are diphthongs of Meitei Lon. Meitei Lon has 6 diphthongs. Out of these, 4 of them end with E vowel sound, and the other 2 ends with vowel U sound, that is I, Oi, I, Ui, Ao, and O. Here are some examples of distribution of I diphthong. I, which means I. Lei, flower. Lei, tongue. And Mai, fire. Next is the distribution of I diphthongs. Lai, which means God. Mai, face. Nai, for pus, and Paiba for fly. Examples of diphthong Ui. Ui, for dog, kuiba takes longer duration, and kuiba for wilting. Examples for distribution of O diphthongs are po, which means paddy, low, paddy field, and no, or. Examples for diphthong ao are kauba, forget, kauba, ik, and lauba, sot. Next is examples for diphthong oi. Oi, which means bear, koi, navel, and moi, fart. And these are the diphthongs of Tado. Tado has 11 diphthongs. They are a, eo, I, ao, ui, iu, ie, oi, o, oi, and ai. Examples for distribution of ai diphthongs are as follows. Te, fruits. May, for fire. Ke, me. And distribution of eu diphthongs are keu, empty, eo, for noisy. Distribution of I diphthongs. My stands for face, hai, mango. I stands for crab, and gai for pregnant. Examples of ao diphthongs are cow, vampire, cow, rope. Distribution of ui diphthongs are ui, which means smelly, hui, wind, and lui, all. Distribution of eu diphthongs are q, which means knock, and for ie diphthongs, ning, which means still, git, eight, and seal, mitun. Examples for oi diphthongs are oi, stomach, loi, buffalo, and soy, Phuket. Distribution of o diphthongs are ho, which means rich, and mo, bright, so, boiling. Distribution of oi diphthongs, soy, signature, boy, busy. Examples for ai diphthongs are pai, tro, hai, forget, vai, borrow. In Meiteilon and Tado, these diphthongs are further studied as crescendo and decrescendo. In crescendo diphthongs, the following vocalic element is prominent than the preceding one, whereas decrescendo diphthongs are one, where the first elements are more prominent than the second element. These are the examples for falling or decrescendo diphthongs of Meiteilon: I, ao, oi, and o. And these are examples for rising or crescendo diphthongs of Meiteilon: ui and ai. From the above diagram, it can be mentioned that the diphthongs I and O are narrow diphthongs, since the initial and final elements differ little in height, whereas diphthongs I, oi, ui, and ao are said to be wide diphthongs, since it involves a large movement between the initial and the final elements. And these are examples for falling or decrescendo diphthongs of Tado. These are rising or crescendo diphthongs of Tado. Tado diphthongs are further classified as narrow and wide diphthongs. Narrow diphthongs are as follows: I, A, U, Ui, U, Ye, O, Oi, and Oi. All these diphthongs show little difference in height between the initial and the final elements. There are two wide diphthongs in Tado language, that is, I and Au. These two diphthongs show large movement between its initial and the final elements. Coming to the conclusion, the present study shows the nature and number of diphthongs of Tado and Meitei Loan. Crescendo and decrescendo diphthongs of both languages are shown in this paper. Though Meitei Loan and Tado belong to the same language family, they show different numbers of diphthongs, and Tado has more diphthongs than Meitei Loan. Thank you. That's all.
Your presentation. Thank you, Tothang, for your presentation. So now we open up the floor for question, comments, and discussion. So participants, feel free to either unmute yourself and raise the question, or raise your hand, or type it in the chat box.
There is a question from Alindra in the chat box.
Okay, chat box, 1 second. Okay. Okay, can you show minimal pairs for oi and 1 second? Oi and oi. Huh? Oi and oi. So, do you have a minimal pair for oi and oi? Look at the chart if you are not sure. Yeah, here you have oi. This is oi, okay, stomach, and then the loi. These are oi. So, do you have a pair for oi and oi? One is oi. So, do you have, or you are yet to? Your voice is breaking. Who is speaking?
This is Mosel, sir.
Yeah.
What Alindra wants is from Meitei Loan.
Yeah, from Meitei Loan. Yeah, do you have from Meitei Loan? So,
this is Roman. I'm a native.
This is Roman and Meitei Loan.
1 second. There is a lot of echo. Hello. Uncle Marcel, please mute your microphone.
I think Taudam Meitei has two devices on, which is why it is echoing. So you can turn off one device when you're speaking.
Yeah. Taudam, you off one of your device.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to say with regards to the question that is raised?
Answer to the Alindra Brahman. In Meitei Loan, there is no half-rounded O. So I cannot show the minimal pairs of half-rounded oi and oi. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, Alindra, what Thodam says is that since there is no half rounded back vowel O, so he can find a minimum pair for O and Oi. Okay, so it doesn't exist. So examples are mostly open syllable. There's one from Chiring Na. So examples are mostly open syllables in both the languages. Can diphthong occur in closed syllables? This is a give. Okay. Give some example.
If I can come in, so I could see actually two examples like soy for signature and boy for busy. Then if the presenter can go to the next slide. Yeah. No, I think the previous this one. Now distribution of this half O and E. Oi diphthong.
This is from Thado.
Okay. So these are not from Mitilon?
It's not from Mitilon.
Okay.
This is from Thado.
Somewhere you saw actually that there are so many diphthongs. Can you show the list of diphthongs in one slide? You presented it already.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, please repeat the question again.
Okay, here I could see Thado has 11 diphthongs. Yeah, actually my question should have been from Thado actually. So here we can see both the diphthongs oi and oi with half O and full O. So can you show at least one minimal pair from this language with these diphthongs?
Yeah.
Soy. Sir, for half rounded O.
Yeah.
Here in oi this diphthongs. Soy means crooked, and in full rounded O, soy means signature.
Okay.
Soy and soy.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
But soy is a borrowed word from Manipuri. We don't have soy. Probably soy is from Manipuri. But anyway, that explains that. Anyway,
I wanted to know actually.
So that explains the questions. Yeah.
Thank you. And
any questions?
Okay. Answer to the Charing Na. In Meitei-Lon and Thados, both are Tibeto-Burman languages. So they have Meitei-Lon is a monosyllabic word. All the syllables, most of the syllables and most of the Meitei-Lon syllables are open syllables. And in the examples, in the present examples, I have showed all the open syllables. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you. Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. I have a clarification about the diphthong of Manipur Meitei-Lon. That you have written the O, U. This is the orthographic mistake, or is it right as a diphthong of Manipuri O, U, O?
Manipuri data. Manipuri. Oh,
Manipuri data.
Oh.
Example, you have given the mo or something like. So it is the OU is the diphthong of Manipuri, or is it right or wrong?
Is it right? It is pre-diphthong. Oh, yeah. No or mo. Right.
Yeah. Example is right, but you have written OU. So instead of that, I found the schwa and U.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a diphthong like
When the OU is right, then we have another diphthong like U, O, ow.
Yes, sir. Thank you for compliment.
Yeah.
So the question Pritam asks is the diphthong in word like bright. There is mo. It appears as if it is the diphthong is something like a and u. So so check he's asking whether your transcription is phonetic or are you following the what you call the orthography? Are you influenced by the orthography or are you transcribing it phonetically? Yeah, that is the question. Your transcription is phonetics.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you sort out between two of you. So I will not be the judge here. So I will not be the judge here. Okay. Any more questions here?
Yeah, bottom here.
Yeah, Temsu. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Temsu, go ahead.
Swa means we pronounce it as a. Means I and lay means flower. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah, I'm hearing you. That's what. Yeah, okay. I heard you clear and loud. So there's no. So I'm not going to be the judge here. So they discuss about the what it called accurateness of the transcription. They sit between the two or discuss among the two. Okay. So what is your question, Temsu?
Yeah, so this is based on your classification. You have classified the diphthongs in both as crescendo and decrescendo, and this is based on prominence. How do you know?
Sir.
How do you know which one is prominent? What tells you that the first one is prominent or the second one is prominent? Is this purely on terms of perception, or have you done some acoustic analysis on this?
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your question, sir. Actually, for this present paper, we analyze and shows the figures from perceptual analysis only. For further studies, we need to focus on acoustic analysis also. But for the present paper, we just focuses on the perceptual analysis only. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, because to me, it sounds to be a random division when you say that it's on prominence. And then I think you have only two diphthongs, which are
okay, sir.
in one category. The other question is, again, with regard to your narrow and wide diphthongs, you talk about distance. Again, the criteria of distance seems to be arbitrary because something like mid-open till close, you consider that as narrow. So something like oi.
Yeah, R to V is considered as wide. Yeah. Go ahead.
So something like oi, the half O, open O, is considered as narrow. And then only those which are from R to E and U are considered as wide. So if you look at that, the distance is actually not the same.
Okay, thank you, sir. We will look at.
So take those comments into consideration. Those are very useful comments.
Yes, sir.
So the question is that those are arbitrary in the sense that you, because of the inventory from, if you look at the vowel inventory, because one is at the top and one is at the low, so you are being influenced by that kind of what it was placement of vowel in the inventory. But there is no phonological evidence to show that just because two vowels are one at the top and one at the bottom, and they are not wide or narrow. So that is the comment that Thamsu has given you. Take into consideration and seek his help to get further input. Are there more questions?
There is one in the chat box.
Chat box. Okay. Once again, it is very interesting. Could you please pronounce again schwa, the central vowel with front vowel E? So can you pronounce schwa with E diphthong? Schwa and E diphthong. Schwa and E diphthongs. A. Yeah, somewhere here. Yeah. Then next one. Go one by one.
Flower. Lei, tongue, mei, fire.
Okay, very good. So I would also like you to, because these are tonal languages, look into the what you call tone assignment. What tone sits on each of these diphthong, and whether the prominence is influenced. So you say that based on your perception, you conceive one as discrendo, one as excrendo. Whether discrendo or excrendo are they affected by the tone, because depending on the pitch. So even the prominent can be due to the pitch. So that assignment of tone and what you call the so-called prominence in terms of discrendo and excrendo has to be taken into consideration jointly. Yeah. Are there any more questions? Are there more questions? Otherwise, I will have to move to the next presenter.
Sir, I have a question to you, sir.
To me?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
I'm not a presenter. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
So, orthographically, we used to write this I, lay, etc. We orthographically write E and I. The English alphabet E and I. This schwa and E, if it is I, then it is what we are writing orthographically is wrong or right?
Okay, the question that you raise is whether we should write the diphthong schwa and E as with English orthography E and I. So for orthography, there is no problem to my mind. So in orthography, it's difficult to use the IPA, and IPA because the fonts in the IPA are not there in English letters. So as a result, in the orthography, when we do orthographic what you call the standardization, so it depends on the what you call consensus of the speaker to write E and I as instead of schwa and E. So to my mind, orthography is separate from phonetics. So in orthography, we normally don't follow what you call IPA or phonetic transcription, because some of the fonts are not there, and also people are not aware of IPA or phonetics. So orthography is another what you call consensus which has to come among the native speakers. But for linguists, in order to avoid ambiguity, because if linguists started using orthography, then we land up into multiple problems, because orthography does not correspond to phonetic sound. So the phonetic sounds and orthography do not match. There is no correspondence between sound and letters all the time. So as for you, for your sake, you can choose your what you call you take your own decision. But for phonetic discussion, it is always good that we always resort to it.
So that means this schwa and I is specifically for phonetics only.
Yeah, purely for phonetics. Purely for Thados, they write your E and I, sometimes they write as R and I. So it differs from language to language. So we are free to make our own judgment. Yeah.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
more questions? Yeah, any more questions? Otherwise, okay, I have to wind up. So thank you both Thaudam and Tauthang for the presentation, and incorporate those suggestions wherever due.
Yes,
So
sir.
now we move to the last but not the least. Nupur Singha, Phonology of Karo. So the floor is yours. Nupur, you can start opening your presentation.
She won't be able to present.
Okay.
So she won't be able to present. She has sent a message.
Okay, and that means we are done.
Adam Daurai is also not able. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so 2 papers are out of this morning presentation, right? So what should we do? We should go for a break. So once again, I thank the presenters, 2 presentation. And then with that, I hand over the floor to the coordinator, Monali, Dr. Monali. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pautang Haukip, for chairing the session, the first session on phonology for our first, the first day of ICTiBLANEI-2. And we have completed 2 paper presentations. The first one was by Hirok Jyotipuro, and the second was by Tibeto-Burman Meitei and Mongaichong Tauthang. And both of them have given very good presentations on Sherdukpen phonology and Meiteilon and Thado diphthongs. And it's time we close the session now, as the other 2 presentations are not available for the present session. So we will take a break and we will meet for the second session, which will start at 12 p.m. And the session is Morphology 1, which will be chaired by Bobita Sarangtem. So I'd like to request the paper presenters, Biman Debarma and Surat Debarma, Alindra Brahma, Sobina Yashmin, Krishangi Gogoi, Chumki Payun, Riya Singh, and Pratiman Devi to kindly be there at least 10 to 15 minutes before we begin the next session for the technical check. So we close the session here and we will see you at 12 p.m. for the next session.